Okay, this is chapter 6, the Gospel of Mark. I'm using the Douay-Rheims Catholic edition of the Bible. Christ teaches at Nazareth. He sends forth the 12 apostles. He feeds 5,000 with 5 loaves and walks upon the sea. And going out from thence, he went into his own country, and his disciples followed him. And when the Sabbath was come, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many hearing him were in admiration at his doctrine, saying, How came this man by all these things? And what wisdom is this that is given to him, and such mighty works as are wrought by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James, and Joseph, and Jude, and Simon? Are not also his sisters here with us? And they were scandalized in regard of him. And Jesus said to them, A prophet is not without honor, but in his own country, and in his own house, and among his own kindred. And he could not do any miracles there, only that he cured a few that were sick, laying his hands upon them. And he wondered because of their unbelief, and he went through the villages round about teaching. And he called the 12, and began to send them 2 and 2, and gave them power over unclean spirits. And he commanded them that they should take nothing for the way, but a staff only, no scrip, no bread, nor money in their purse, and to be shod with sandals, and that they should not put on 2 coats. And he said to them, Wheresoever you shall enter into a house, there abide till you depart from that place. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear you, going forth from thence, shake off the dust from your feet for a testimony to them. And going forth they preached that men should do penance. And they cast out many devils, and anointed with oil many that were sick, and healed them. And King Herod heard from his name was made manifest, and he said, John the Baptist is risen again from the dead, and therefore mighty works show forth themselves in him. And others said, It is Elias. But others said, It is a prophet, as one of the prophets. Where Herod, hearing, said, John whom I beheaded, he is risen again from the dead. For Herod himself had sent and apprehended John, and bound him in prison for the sake of Herodias, the wife of Philip his brother, because he had married her. For John said to Herod, It is not lawful for thee to have thy brother's wife. Now Herodias laid snares for him, and was desirous to put him to death, and could not. For Herod feared John, knowing him to be a just and holy man, and kept him, and when he heard him, did many things, and he heard him willingly. And when a convenient day was come, Herod made a supper for his birthday, for the princes and tribunes and chief men of Galilee. And when the daughter of the same Herodias had come in, and had danced, and pleased Herod, and them that were at table with him, the king said to the damsel, Ask of me what thou wilt, and I will give it thee. And he swore to her, Whatsoever thou shalt ask, I will give thee, though it be half of my kingdom. Who, when she was gone out, said to her mother, What shall I ask? But she said, The head of John the Baptist. And when she was come in immediately, with haste to the king, she asked, saying, I will that forthwith thou give me in a dish, the head of John the Baptist. And the king was struck sad. Yet, because of his oath, and because of them that were with him at table, he would not displease her. But sending an executioner, he commanded that his head should be brought in a dish. And he beheaded him in the prison, and brought his head in a dish, and gave it to the damsel, and the damsel gave it to her mother. Which his disciples hearing came, and took his body, and laid it in a tomb. And the apostles coming together unto Jesus related to him all things that they had done and taught. And he said to them, Come apart into a desert place, and rest a little. For there were many coming and going, and they had not so much as time to eat. And going up into a ship, they went into a desert place apart. And they saw them going away, and many knew that they ran flocking thither on foot from all the cities, and were there before them. And Jesus, going out, saw a great multitude, and he had compassion on them, because they were as sheep, not having a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. And when the day was now far spent, his disciples came to him, saying, This is a desert place, and the hour is now past. Send them away, that going into the next villages and towns they may buy themselves meat to eat. And he answering said to them, Give you them to eat. And they said to him, Lest us go and buy bread for 200 pence, we will give them to eat. And he said to them, How many loaves have you? Go and see. And when they knew, they said, 5 and 2 fishes. And he commanded them that they should make them all sit down by companies upon the green grass. And they sat down in ranks by hundreds and fifties, and by 50s. And when he had taken the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, looking up to heaven, he blessed and broke the loaves and gave to his disciples to set before them. And the 2 fishes he divided among them all. And they all did eat, and had their fill. And they took up the leavings, 12 full baskets of fragments and of the fishes. And they that did eat were 5,000 men. And immediately he obliged his disciples to go up into the ship, that they might go before him over the water at Bethsaida, while he dismissed the people. And when he had dismissed them, he went up to the mountain to pray. And when it was late, the ship was in the midst of the sea, and himself alone on the land. And seeing them laboring in rowing, for the wind was against them, and about the 4th watch of the night, he cometh to them walking upon the sea, and he would have passed by them. But they, seeing him walking upon the sea, thought it was an apparition, and they cried out, for they all saw him, and were troubled. And immediately he spoke with them, and said to them, Have a good heart, it is I, fear ye not. And he went up to them into the ship, and the wind ceased, and they were far more astonished within themselves. For they understood not concerning the loaves, for their heart was blinded. And when they had passed over, they came into the land of Genezareth, and set to the shore. And when they were gone out of the ship, immediately they knew him. And running through that whole country, they began to carry about in beds those who were sick, where they heard he was. And whithersoever he entered, into towns or into villages or cities, they laid the sick in the streets, and besought him that they might touch but the hem of his garment. And as many as touched him were made whole. Okay, that's chapter 6. Here's my little commentary for whatever it's worth. What's interesting, I think, in the beginning of the chapter is Christ says that he could not do, or the narrator, I should say, says that Christ could not do any miracles in Nazareth, because that is where he was from, and the people knew him, and they knew his relatives, which they call brothers and sisters. Those are his relatives. And therefore, they knew who he was, and they had no faith in him. Again, this necessity of faith to bring forth the healing from Christ into us, right? There has to be faith. Without it, nothing is done. Nothing is done. I mean, that's St. Paul said that in Hebrews. Then he says that then he sent the disciples out, right, to do what he was doing, right, healing and preaching. And then the gospel tells us about the death of St. John the Baptist, who was murdered by King Herod, okay, beheaded. And then we get to the part where Jesus feeds the 5,000, which I think is very interesting, because Jesus had faith that God would multiply what they had and bring forth an abundance for the people, and they did. And he did. Christ did a miracle for the for the 5,000. He showed them God's abundance, right? And of course, he had faith. Christ had faith that would happen, and it did. And then he walked on the water and visited the disciples in a boat, right? So, very, very interesting chapter. I especially like the idea that Christ, couldn't do any miracles because of the lack of faith of the people. And it's a hindrance. It's a hindrance. It's like people stop up God's gifts because they don't believe. They don't trust, they don't believe. And it's really a problem. It's a huge problem. Lack of faith is a huge problem, especially today. Okay? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will do chapter 7 just as soon as I can. And I'm sorry if I, stumbled a little there. All right? When reading it. Have a good night. Bye-bye.